The ideal situation for every builder is to work with them from the very start and with them and the designer and work through it. But the reality is not all projects come through like that. So you really need a pre-construction process where people can come in at different stages and you're able to help them and not just push them down a path that they don't want to go down.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Build Insight podcast. We're back on the old airwaves today. We're not in person in the studio. Here with my partner Luke. He's joining us from his makeshift studio today. And we've got a really awesome guest joining us from the Southern Tablelands around the Goulburn area. We've got Adam Antony from Veo Building. Now, this guy is dead set out there putting it all into his business and raising the game for just creating a better building industry. Adam, welcome, mate. And do you want to give us a quick insight into yourself and your business, mate?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks for bringing us on. Yeah, like you said, I'm in the Southern Tablelands of New South Wales, which is in the Goulburn region. I'm like most builders. I just had a carpentry background, coming out of school, coming out of year 12, and did my carpentry apprenticeship. And then I slogged away for 6-7 years working with various builders, just honing my craft, learning a few different ways to build, a few different methods. And then, finally made the leap to go out on my own when I was about 27. So that's about 10 years ago now, 9-10 years ago now. And so that's pretty much how my journey went. But that's where I started about 9 years ago with my building company.
Very good, mate. So it's always good to get a bit of insight. We think most of our guests, we find that they've got a real carpentry background, but I guess your story to get to where you are at the moment, mate, is a little bit different to some. You actually started out as a partnership in business by the sound of it, and you've since journeyed out on your own solo venture. Are you happy to share a little bit of what you were doing and how you ventured into your current pathway?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so as you said, I was in a partnership with a friend of mine. So when I went out on my own, we joined forces for 7-8 years, I think it was. And we had some really successful times during that period, built some amazing projects. Learn a lot of stuff along the way, made a lot of mistakes like a lot of builders would be able to relate to. But it ventured on, and then it got to a point where we probably had visions or different visions for where we wanted to take the business. And we just decided to put a line through it while everything was still sweet, and we're still great mates today. He still does some work for us. And so we just called it while we can there and just moved on and went our own separate ways.
That's awesome, mate. For people who don't know, the Goulburn area is well known for the big merino ram on the side of the freeway. So some beautiful countryside, and following and getting to know you the last couple of years too, mate. You're definitely really passionate about what you're doing. So when you finished up with the partnership and you set out with Veo Building, that's obviously you're about a year or so, I think, mate, into the venture there. What were some things that you did before you jumped in to think, I got a fresh start here, or this is how I want to go about it? Was there some certain ways you tackled it, or you spent some time on it before you fired up again?
I really look at it like as a really fortunate scenario, like being able to have that experience for 7-8 years and see where all the shortfalls and the failings were in my business and the successes that I had. So I was really able to get a clear vision of what I wanted the company to look like, and then really set everything up from scratch. So being able to just put a line through that and then start implementing new processes, systems, like a new pre-construction process that I trialed a few different things over the years and worked out what worked, what didn't work. And then, just even being able to set up the correct softwares, which I think is a big thing to really make my company efficient and automate some of it. It was really good to be able to just put a line through it and start new. I think even if you're not starting a new company or you're halfway through your building journey or whatever, I think you can take a lot from it by just looking at it and picking a point in time and going, right, this is where I want to change things, and maybe just putting a line through the way you did things and just going, let's set everything up new and tackle it from there.
Yeah, that's so true, mate. I think Luke and myself actually had a chat over a couple of vinos the other week when we were together just about this. Backman Builders has been in business now for about 14 years. And I know Luke's on truly with the Calorie building venture as well. It's been a long time. And I know myself, like talking with Darren, my business partner, our business has probably changed and almost been a different business within itself. Oh, mate, 3-4 times over that journey. I feel like we're even just this year we're pushing the pace on some new things which we're looking at it maybe by the start of next year, it'll look even different again. So yeah, that's fantastic, mate. And I think you're obviously learning as you go. One of the things that you did before you started your business, so you definitely dived back in headfirst into some building coaching and business coaching. Do you want to touch on some of that, Adam?
Yeah, so like probably most builders starting out, you stumble across a podcast or maybe an ebook or an audio book, and you just listen to it and it starts resonating with you, some of the issues and some of the stuff they're talking about. And then you just slowly dive deeper and go into that rabbit hole, and the information starts flowing in, and then it leads on to one thing leads on to another. So dived into a business coaching probably 3 years ago now. So I've been in 3 platforms now. The first one probably I was only in for a few months, didn't like it much. But yeah, I've really found my development since jumping into them as a businessman has really 10x'd. It's went to the next level. And yeah, there's so much, we live in the information era. There's so much information out there now and so much help that if you're not leveraging off it, I think you're going to fall behind pretty quick.
So, mate, I think that's a really important thing you touched on there, is looking at yourself from more of a businessman. So I think where a lot of people go wrong is they don't value themselves and see themselves as the professional. Because at the end of the day, you are more than just a tradesman. You're obviously a carpenter, did your time, and you've come up to become the builder. You're really valuing yourself and setting that expectation for yourself that you are now the business professional really sets you apart from probably a lot of your competitors. And it raises the bar and makes your clients feel a lot more comfortable with what you're doing. Thankfully, I guess that's where the business coaching platform, I think that's where all 3 of us met, actually. It's, something very crucial that anybody that's starting out or sitting on the fence about it, you definitely need to. There's probably not one platform fits all. And I know we've had this discussion many times on a lot of podcasts before. So do your research, ask around. But yeah, definitely you have to be investing in yourself for sure. Mate, I want to segue a little bit because we touched on before, I was scrolling through your Instagram last week and just checking out some of the stuff that you've got at the moment, leveraging some software and the technology that's available. What insights can you share with us about some of these exciting projects that you got coming up and stuff with the V2E platform and other things that you've got that are really changing the game off-site to then be able to streamline the build process on-site?
Yeah, I suppose I've always been really fascinated in construction technology and softwares and how to optimize my business to get it really running efficiently. I've been using 3D construction software, a program called PlusSpec, for probably 4 or 5 years now to quote or estimate all my projects and really get an understanding of how a home comes together in 3D. So yeah, I've been using that for a few years now to estimate. And then recently I've reached out to V2E, who are an estimating company. They're doing my models now. I outsourced it. I probably was spending too much time on it. It wasn't the best use of my time. So I just found someone who are experts in it and reached out to them. But it's a great tool. It's a really great tool for understanding how homes come together and really instilling a bit of confidence in you when estimating because it's all visual and you can see what's drawn in there. You're pretty confident in your bill of quantities. So it's a really powerful tool. It's also a really powerful tool in the pre-construction and I suppose you could call it sales process, even though sales is a bit of a dirty word, but able to sit in front of clients and show them and instill confidence in them that what their project's going to cost and that you've put the time into it to understand their project. It really adds value, I think, to that process.
Without going into incredible detail, for listeners that have never heard of a platform like that before, what are some of the features? Like what can you actually do in it to be able to give a bit of insight for it?
Yeah, so you're pretty much just virtually constructing the home. So from your foundations up, your detail and all your framing, your footings, your slabs, it's all getting into really high level detail. So it's modelling in all your reinforcement, your framing, your roofing, your skirtings, everything. So it's a really, really powerful tool. It's hard to understand 2D sometimes. I'm sure you've seen plenty of plans before, and they come across in different qualities depending on where you're getting them from and if the information's correct on it. You're really able to pick up on discrepancies in plans or any issues that might pop up with engineering and that. Yeah, it's a really powerful tool for that sort of stuff.
I need to jump in here for a minute, guys, to thank our sponsors, Backman Builders and Calorie Building. Without the support of these businesses, the Build Insight podcast wouldn't be possible. Take a moment to go and show some support for them so they can continue to support us, bringing you the Build Insight podcast.
So Adam, like you just briefly touched on before, pre-construction, mate. So over the journey, you've taken experiences and finding softwares and ways of making building more efficient, more understood by the whole team, including the client. So it's a great way to present, to display to a client. We've all probably had clients before. You've got to hold certain clients' hands a lot tighter. They don't have a visual aspect of how things are going to come together. So are these things that you're spelling out within your pre-construction package, or are they things that you're just building on once you've won the job? How are you structuring, mate?
Yeah, no, I'm very clear in the pre-construction. Like in my first meeting, I'm showing them how I'm estimating their project. I'm showing them that this is how I'll be estimating. This is the tools I use. And it's basically a non-negotiable in my pre-construction now. That's how I estimate. So every project goes through that process. But I haven't had any clients look at it and think that it's not of any value. And it really helps when presenting too, when you're presenting costs and your final proposal. You can really go through it and help them understand it. The typical way might be a scope of works, where you might have a written scope of works of what you're actually going to be completing on site. So this is a really way of diving into each part of the building and helping clients understand what's involved.
It's a great one. Another one to throw into the ring that I'm not sure if you guys, I've spoken to Luke about this one, but ProCalc, is that something that you've had to play around with as well, Adam?
Yeah, I do use ProCalc. So I've got it slipped into my pre-construction process there now. So I've got a very well-rounded pre-construction process now. Like I've tried a lot of different pre-construction processes over the years, but I've really dialed in one that fits my business. And I think what's really great about it is people can come into different stages of it. Where I found the issues before with pre-construction is you might be pushing one sort of method or one path for them to go down, but the reality is people come in at different stages during their project journey. So you really need a pre-construction process where they can slip into certain areas of it. The ideal situation for every builder is to work with them from the very start and with them and the designer and work through it. But the reality is not all projects come through like that. So you really need a pre-construction process where people can come in at different stages and you're able to help them and not just push them down a path that they don't want to go down.
Yeah, mate, that is a very strong believer in what you've just said. There's no one size fits all. And I know that's a big conversation point. It's whether you have a pre-construction process, and if you don't fit it, then bad luck, you're not a fit. But you could land your dream client that's maybe a little bit more advanced, dream build, open to collaboration, and it can work. Just to backtrack for listeners just to touch on ProCalc, because some people might not know what it is, but it's basically a rough estimation software that you can take out a subscription for. You can put all your information in there, do some takeoffs, build up basically a range of pricings. As we know, builders don't all charge the same price. Companies will have different overhead scales and so forth, meaning their bottom dollar line's bigger or lower. So you can basically land in a low, medium, or a high price tag there. So before your clients, and this is why I don't know why architects aren't on this as well, they're listening out there, architects, but you can actually give a client a realistic ballpark figure for a rough design they might have. We hear too many horror stories, don't we, guys, of clients might have a budget of 700 grand and they've got a design of 1.5 million. So straight off the bat, they've just wasted all this money on designs and consultation fees. Yeah, we've found it pretty impressive. We did a bunch of research on it and tracked costings against jobs that had been priced. I think one in particular came within $10,000 of a price project. From what we saw, it was not too bad for what we used it as data anyway.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I use it very early, obviously, in my pre-construction or when clients are reaching out to me. What I love about it is it's not me saying what the building's going to cost. It's not you saying what the building's going to cost. It's what the industry's saying. So it gives you that bridging gap between you try to say what a project will cost. It's just working on data. So it's a great starting point, I think. The issue is with us custom builders, because every project we do is so different. You got to have a large database of data and finished projects to really give out information early. So it's really good to lean on tools like that can just help you with it all. Says what the industry reckons it's going to cost.
Yeah, I think they use something like live data updates every 30 days or something like that, and it's per region. So all three of us would get data from 3 different regions of New South Australia and Victoria. So
it speeds up the pre-construction process, I think. And that's what I love about it. There's an argument to say that you've got to go into every detail and have a drawn out pre-construction process to make sure you're covering all bases. But I've also found that people can get project fatigue. It's good to implement those softwares to keep things moving at a good pace to get them through the process. The alternative is you're either fully costing concept plans or going into detailed costings for them to get an answer, which is a drawn out process. It can waste a lot of people's time. These tools are great for clients as well to keep the process moving.
Mate, I've actually noticed looking at your website the other day as well, you've got something a little bit different to the smaller sort of builder you're offering. Are they set floor plans, or are they just styles of homes that use combined packages for people? And obviously being a custom builder, you've probably got a little bit of flexibility to tweak that, but can we go into a little bit of depth on what you offer in that space?
Yeah, so I just got a set of floor plans basically for my clients to have a look at. So I don't try to push them down that. It's more so just a starting point. So I've done actual QBEs or ProCalcs for those floor plans. I actually don't cost them. I just do a ProCalc for them. Yeah. But I think it's really good when people come to you, have a starting point. If they can look at a plan like that, look at a floor plan or a style and say, this is where we align, this is what we want to achieve. I think it's a great starting point for a custom home. So I just use it more so as a tool like that, as opposed to, say, volume builder where it's off the plans. But yeah, it's great just to be able to show people some layouts, show people some styles, and then have a rough cost to it to start the custom home journey.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Do you actually have what's your bread and butter project, mate? Talk us through some of the styles of projects that you got? Obviously, custom builds, renos, extensions. What do you got going at the moment?
So I love doing new homes. I really like doing. Yeah, I've just started a great project, which is like a modern sort of barn style Australian home, which tends to be a very popular design around where we are in rural. So we do a lot of homes on acreage, a bit of land. Those homes fit that sort of style. But yeah.
It's, mate, if I'm a young builder or a carpenter listening to this, you're letting off some gold nuggets right now. It's awesome. Let's just start. This might embarrass you a little bit, mate, but the 3 of us attended a live event probably a bit over a year ago. And I remember you got pulled up out in front of a group of maybe 70, 80, 90 builders and some partners and stuff. And I remember you definitely were feeling a bit outside your comfort zone at that time. But what I'm getting at is fast forward. So I've just, Adam and myself, both on Future Builder platform now. And last week, Adam ran a webinar for anyone in the group to jump in and do a full presentation with Wonder Build and just how you're doing, taking care of your data within your business, mate. And I thought that was freaking awesome. So talk about the growth of someone with everything you do, mate. And I think you're probably the epitome of someone out there at the moment, just putting everything into your business and your future with the Veo Building, mate. So do you want to talk about some things that you've done to just go on that upwards trend with growth within yourself and what you're doing with the business side of things?
Yeah, I invest a lot of time into coaching and studying. It's just been continuous over the last 2 years, I've never read a book until probably 2 years ago, and then I've probably read 10 or 12 since then. So it's just those little things, but even consuming content like what you guys are putting out, educational content, making sure I'm always listening to podcasts, not consuming too much mainstream media. If you're inside them coaching platforms, making sure you're utilising them. I think a lot of people sign up to them but don't give them their full attention or don't invest enough in them, so it ends up being a waste of money. But yeah, it's just an upward spiral for me. So just consuming the right content and trying to always improve. Just on that, but I will say that one thing I did probably do wrong when I first went into business coaching and some of those growth platforms is I probably overconsumed it a bit. I think sometimes you need to just, switch off from it a bit because it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of information out there. And if you try implement everything at once, you end up implementing nothing. I think that was the first 12 months of my journey of just thinking there's so many things to fix and trying to implement everything, and then you end up implementing nothing. So I think if you just pick out one thing and work on the theory that 1% each day, get 1% better each day is going to get you in a better spot in 6 months' time and not fix everything at once.
Yeah, it's good bit of advice there, mate. I know a lot of the coaching platforms will do a live weekend or a meetup. And I know being on quite a few of them myself, that you'll take so much in and you'll be like, I want to work on that. I want to work on this. This is great. I didn't think of that before. There's quite often a crash period after because you've just overstimulated your brain and you're fatigued and excited, and it can just be a bit more overwhelming and you end up doing not much. It takes a while to pick yourself back up again. Yeah, I think that comes down to growth within yourself and realizing how you function. We're all different. But doing one thing properly at a time is better than doing 100 things not at all. So take your time is a good bit of advice for anyone out there listening.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's good advice.
What's Adam? I feel actually a bit of the odd one out in the room here because you blokes are both rural. Goulburn's not exactly small, like the area you are in is I'd call it's a pretty bloody big country town, but by no means is it a capital city with population. What are some of the challenges that you've got with working in a bit of a rural area? Do you see other builders in the small areas direct competition? Do you have things like trade shortages, material shortages, anything like that? Or what's the situation like in your neck of the woods, mate?
I think there's a lot of advantages to building in rural, to be honest. There is some little challenges, but yeah, I really enjoy it. We're working on open properties a lot of the time and got a lot of room. Where we're positioned to is right between Sydney and Canberra, so we've got a lot of access to some good suppliers and that. Probably the biggest challenge I've found over the years is probably employment, finding good employees to come work for you. So there's plenty out there, but they generally go out on their own and have a crack themselves. It's hard to lure people to country towns, especially if they're from the city and that. So employment's definitely one thing, but yeah, I think the age we live in with freight and the world's getting smaller, especially with online ordering and that. A lot of suppliers, it's easy to get stuff to rural towns, I've found. But I suppose another challenging thing is just you're generally working for people that, if you don't know them directly, they know someone. Sometimes you feel obliged to probably do some stuff for them or favours and that. So that's been one challenging thing for me over the years, is definitely drawing that line between what's best for my business and what's best for them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That's a great piece of advice because there's a lot of young blokes starting out in their career. You go through that stage, so you just take on everything that comes across your table. But yeah, that's really good, mate.
Thanks for tuning in, guys, for another week of the Build Insight podcast. That was Adam from Veo Building. He'll be back again next week for part 2. See you then.
Let's cue the disclaimer. I need to let you know that myself and the Build Insight team are in no way, shape or form qualified to give you personal or specific business advice. We strongly encourage you seek out the use of professionals for products or when you are making personal or business decisions. Everything discussed during the Build Insight podcast is our own and the guest opinion and personal experience and is of a general nature only. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Catch you on the next one.